This is grade 12 English. Today's lesson is Evans Tries an O Level, written by Colin Dexter. Colin Dexter was born in Stamford, Lincolnshire. He earned both his bachelor's degree and master's degree in classics from Christ's College, Cambridge. He was a teacher for most of his life and retired due to his worsening deafness. Dexter penned 13 mystery novels. That means he wrote 13 mystery novels. He created the famous detective Inspector Morse in 1975. He adapted as an ITV television series Inspector Morse from 1987 to 2000. Then he earned 2 silver daggers, 2 golden daggers and a diamond dagger from the Crime Writers Association of Britain. He was knighted in 2000, honored as an officer of the Order of the British Empire. He married Dorothy Cooper in 1956 and the couple had a daughter and son. Characters of the story: Evans Tries an O Level. James Roderick Evans, a prisoner. Secretary of the Examination Board, a higher official of the Examination Board. Governor, the governor of H.M. Prison, Oxford. Mr. Jackson, a prison officer. Mr. Stephens, a prison officer. Reverend Stuart McCleary, an invigilator. Mr. Carter, a detective superintendent. Mr. Bell, a detective chief inspector. Introduction of the lesson. Evans Tries an O Level is a story of a criminal named Evans. In this story, Colin Dexter shows how an individual is able to shake the entire police department with his cleverness and ingenuity. So, what is it O level exam? It is the first or ordinary level exam in specific subjects by British Secondary School. It is a basic language of General Certificate of Education which tests in basic knowledge in different subjects. First, let me tell you the summary of the story, then we will see in detail. Okay, the story begins with a criminal named Ivan. Ivan is already famous for breaking out from many prisons, thus he is now at Oxford prison. We see that the secretary, the examination board, gets a call from H.M. Prison's governor. He learns that Ivan has begun with night classes in O-level German. Thus, he wishes to get an academic qualification. So, they all make the necessary arrangements for this same. On inquiry, they learn Ivan has no record of violence. Instead, he is rather amusing. Finally, they decide to host the exam in Ivan's room and send for an invigilator from St. Mary Magdalene. The governor is very vigilant throughout as he knows what Evans is capable of pulling off. Thus, the authorities do their best to help Evans excel at the exam. They hire a German tutor for him. He teaches Evans for 6 months and Evan even befriends him during that time. The tutor wishes him luck but feels that he does not stand a chance to clear the exam. However, Evans tells him that he may surprise everybody. Thus, the day of the exam arrives. His cell is being inspected now. The officers take away everything that he may use to injure himself. They try to take the hat away, but Evans insists, saying it is his lucky charm. Moreover, they also bugged Evans' cell for the governor to listen through everything. They search the invigilator and then he reaches his cell to carry out the exam. An officer kept peeping in the cell to make sure everything was all right. The exam executes without any trouble and Stephen escorts the invigilator out to the main gate. In Evan's cell, they find out the invigilator is lying injured. They went in search of Evans but find out that he has escaped prison. Moreover, when they do not find the invigilator in the hospital, they go to visit his residence. They reach there to find out that it was a fraud. Finally, the governor puts together the missing pieces of the puzzle. He learns that the invigilator was Evans' friend and he swapped places with him and fooled everyone. They immediately go to the hotel where Evans was staying and capture him. The governor becomes happy, thinking his game is over, and sends him to a prison van. However, Evans manages to pull off one last stunt, as the prison officer and prison van were also part of his plan. Finally, he becomes a free man. Evans the Break. Evans has escaped from the prison 3 times. That's why he is called Evans the Break by the police officials. The way he planned his escape for the 4th time with the help of his friends outside the prison earned him the secret admiration for his cleverness. Evans. He was a criminal in Oxford prison. He was very clever. He wanted to study German language. So evening classes were started for him. He was the only one student in prison wanted to study German language. So jail authorities arranged a teacher from a technical college. So later came to know that the original teacher was one of Evans' friends. In the month of March, the secretary of the examination board received a call from Oxford prison. He said that it was a strange request, but they wanted to help the person. He also confirmed that there was just one person, as he had said. So, who received a call from Oxford prison? The secretary of the examination board. So, from where the secretary received a call? From Oxford prison. What was the strange request? A criminal wanted to write O-level exam. The governor confirmed that there was only one person for the examination named Evans. He also told him that Evans started taking night classes in O-level of German language last September. He was interested in achieving educational qualification. Who? Evans. The secretary asked whether Evans was good at studies or not. The governor replied that he was the only one who attended classes. So, taking such a class outside the prison would have cost him a lot of money. On hearing this, the secretary agreed to give him a chance. The governor appreciated him for his decision and also asked about the whole process. The whole process means the procedure for conducting the O-level examination for the prisoner. The secretary replied that he would send all the forms required for the examination. He asked the prisoner's name and the governor replied that his name was James Roderick Evans. The secretary also sought clarification whether Evans was a violent person or not. The governor said that there was no such record. He was a nice guy, a bit humorous, and he was a star at the Christmas musical performance. Okay, he compared him to the comedian Mike Yarwood because of his copying acts. He also added that he suffered from kleptomania, which urged him to steal. Do you know what is kleptomania? It's a very strong wish to steal, okay, that a person cannot control. Okay, a strong wish to steal, that is kleptomania. So, Evans suffered from this, okay, kleptomania. The governor wanted to tell something more but decided that he would keep a check on that. Okay. The secretary asked the governor if he could arrange a room for the exam. The governor replied that there was no such problem because Evans was in his own lockup. So they could conduct the exam there if the secretary had no problem with it. Now the cell of Evans was turned into the examination room. Turned into means transformed. So the cell of Evans transformed as the examination room. The secretary found it suitable. The governor also told him that they would call a churchman from a nearby church, Saint Mary Max, who would keep a check on Evans during the examination. Whom they would call? They would call a churchman. From where? From a nearby church, Saint Mary Max. For what? To keep a check on Evans during the examination. The secretary laughed that the church had a good number of priests and one could be assigned the job of supervision. The secretary questions the governor that if it was easy to stop Evans from communicating with the other person. The governor laughed and thanked him for accepting his request. Okay, but the governor did not tell the secretary that Evans the Break had already escaped from prison 3 times. Okay, the governor took precautions because he feared that Evans might try to escape. The next morning at 8:30, Evans was visited by 2 men. One was Mr. Jackson. He was the senior prison officer of D Wing, and both Jackson and Evans were enemies. And then Mr. Stephens, who was a newly appointed officer and a strong looking man, had come along with Mr. Jackson. They both spent 2 hours to search Evans' cell. Nothing was found. They removed nail, scissors and file. Mr. Stephens was asked to stay inside the cell till the examination. And inside the cell they set microphone. Half an hour before the examination, Jackson and Stephens visited Evans. Evans' face was unshaven and he requested Mr. Jackson to let him shave himself. Okay, Jackson instructed Stephens to make sure that he took his razor out of the cell. If he left the razor there, Evans might do anything to escape from the cell. Mr. Jackson told Evans that he had got half an hour to smarten himself. He asked Evans to take off that filthy looking hat. Filthy means dirty. Okay, Evans, he wore a dirty hat. So Jackson told him to take off that hat. Evans replied that it had brought him luck in life and requested to be allowed to keep it on during the examination. At 8:45 the same morning, the Reverend Stuart McCleary, he was a member of the church. He left his bachelor flat, that means a flat made for a single person, in Broad Street. Okay, he stepped out, he walked out briskly towards Cafax. Cafax, it's a place in a road where 4 roads meet. அந்த 4 ரோடு மீட் பண்ணிக்கிற இடம் தான் Cafax. Okay, so Reverend Stuart McCleary, he walked out towards Cafax. The temperature was considerably below normal. A long black overcoat and a shallow crowned clerical hat. Clerical hat na cricketல umpires-லாம் போட்டிருப்பாங்க அந்த மாதிரி. Okay, that clerical hat protected him from the shower of rain. In his right hand he was carrying a small brown suitcase which contained all that he would need for his morning duties. In his brown suitcase, he had all the things required for his morning duties, such as sealed question paper, uh, yellow supervisor form, a special permission card that verified him as a supervisor, a blunt knife to cut the seal of the paper, then a Bible, and the latest copy of the Church Times. The 2-hour exam was planned to begin at 9:15 a.m. Evans was foaming his face strongly when Stephens brought into small square tables. He put them opposite each other in the small space between the bed and the painted wall. He then brought into 2 chairs. The less worn out chair was placed in front of the table, which was near the cell door. Jackson made a small final appearance and asked Evans to behave properly. Evans turned and showed his acceptance. Jackson ordered Evans to remove the posters which Evans had pinned up on the cell wall. Evans agreed to this and said that he was about to remove them as he knew that it was some churchman who was going to come for the exam. Then Jackson queried as to how he knew that. Evans said that he had noticed it when he had signed the examination forms. Okay. Then Evans continued with his shaving and sought Jackson's permission to ask him something. Then he asked him why the officers had put a microphone in his cell, and then he turned his head towards the space above the door. Jackson admitted that the microphone was not put perfectly, as Evans easily spotted it. Okay, then Evans questioned him why they thought that he would run. Jackson replied that anyone with a sense would not trust him. Evans then questioned him who was going to listen to him. Jackson replied that the governor would listen as he did not trust him. Then Jackson told him that even he did not trust him, so he would watch him like a hawk, a bird that keeps its eye on its prey. Okay, here Evans was was being watched like a hawk. Then he finally asked him to keep his nose clean, and Evans agreed. Then finally Jackson wished him good luck before leaving. The priest McLeary signed his name in the visitor's book at the gatehouse. He then followed the prison officer through the exercise yard to day wing. There he was greeted by Jackson. The heavy outdoor of the day wing was opened and then shut behind them. The same happened when they entered through the inner door. McLeary joined Stephens. So Jackson ordered Stephens to remove the razor from the cell. Then Stephen agreed. He also told him to keep a close watch. McLeary made a vibrating sound while climbing up the stairs, following his new guide. When they reached the entrance of the cell, Stephens opened the peephole and informed McLeary that he was the person who had to take the exam. Evans was sitting quietly facing the door, slightly away from the 2 tables. He was concentrating on the elementary German grammar. Then Stephens took one of the keys from the ring and opened the lock. The lock of the cell made a ringing sound after it sprung up. Then at 9:10 a.m., the governor switched on the receiver of the microphone. Then he ordered Jackson to tell Evans to be careful as they had installed a microphone in his cell. Then he thought that it would be good to forewarn him. He said it in a way as though Evans would never be able to spot it. Then a thought came to the governor's mind that all this seemed like a theatrical drama, and all their preparations were like those done by schoolboys. Then he thought that how could Evans think of escaping that day? He was thinking how Evans would think of escaping that day. Then he could have tried it when he was at the recreational block, and because it was easier to escape from there. But today he was locked in his cell. All the officers were closely watching him. There were two doors between his cell and the yard. There were walls as high as piles of dry grass. Yes, Evans was totally safe now. The governor thought that there would be no problem if he kept the receiver switched on. Although he knew that there was nothing to listen because it was the duty of the supervisor to maintain silence. But he was still in doubt. He was worried about Evans taking the advantage of McCleary. He could have smuggled him to take a bladed hand tool or a rope ladder. The governor at once got alert. He thought that they had taken away all the possible weapons from Evans, but there were chances that McCleary could have brought some weapon unknowingly with him, such as a jackknife, which was a large knife with a folding blade. Even Evans could hold him captive for forcing the prison officers to release him. Okay. The governor called up someone at 9:12 a.m. Stephens had already introduced the supervisor and Evans, who had to appear for the exam. Just at that moment, Jackson came and asked McCleary to come outside for a minute. He explained about the governor's reasons for being worried. McCleary cooperated him in the checking process by holding out his arms so that he could be checked. Jackson started checking him very fast. He then found something hard, which McCleary said was his reading glasses. To be more sure, he even checked his suitcase. Then he checked each envelope and carefully searched everything in his palms. He also went roughly through the Holy Writ and the Church Times. Everything was fine, but there was one thing in the suitcase that was strongly confused him. Jackson asked McCleary why he had brought a half-filled rubber ring. A rubber ring which wasn't even fit for a small child with a 12-inch waist. He asked him whether he was going for a swim. McCleary, who still now seemed very friendly, suddenly changed because of the tasteless joke he had made. So he had him that he suffered from hemorrhoids, and when he was to sit for a long time, he left his sentence incomplete. So Jackson felt very awkward but felt sorry for asking him all that. He then later discovered the paper knife in the suitcase and said that he hoped McCleary did not mind if he kept it with him. Then it was 9:18 a.m. when Garner heard their voices again. It was understood that the exam will start a little later. McCleary queried Evans about having a watch. He answered yes. Then he said that he would tell him when to start and he would again tell him when only 5 minutes would be left. Then Evans said nothing. McCleary gave him instructions about where to write the index number, center number, etc. He quietly followed it. When McCleary was about to say start, Evans interrupted him and looked at Stephens. Stephens answered that he had been ordered by Jackson to stay there for the exam. Evans complained of not being able to concentrate if someone would be constantly be watching him like this. He also felt sorry for this. Governor called Jackson and ordered him to get Stephens out of the cell, as he thought that they were doing it a bit too much. The governor heard what was talked on the phone between Stephens and Jackson. He heard the door being shut and also heard McCleary announcing the beginning of the exam. It was 9:25 a.m. and there was a great peace. At 9:40 a.m., the Assistant Secretary for Modern Languages called up from the examination board to speak the governor. The examination had already started about a quarter of an hour. Then he told him that some fool had not placed the correction slip in the examination package. He then tried to seek help from the governor. Then the receiver assured him of help by directly connecting the call to Mr. Jackson in D-Wing. A line of thoughts came to Governor's mind about the call being a fake. He thought that this call was used to share some signal or a secret message. He then cross-checked it by dialing the number of examination board. He heard the sound of continuous beep which one hears if the phone is engaged. So he heard only that continuous beep sound. இப்போ phone engage இருந்ததுன்னா sound beep sound கேட்கும் இல்லையா? So that he heard that sound. After a gap of 2 minutes, he heard some whisper. After a while, he heard McCleary giving instruction to Evans in his heavy Scottish voice. He asked him to stop writing for a while and also instructed him to open page 3. Here he gave him some instructions as to make correction of 4th word in 15th line. The governor listened and smiled because he had taken German as a language when he was in 6th class. He remembered about the adjectives, and so did McCleary. The minister's pronunciation of the words sounded very impressive to the governor, but he thought there were less chances of Evans being aware of the adjectives. Meanwhile, he received a call from magistrate court. Okay, so he received a call from magistrate's court. There was a need of a prison van and some officer, as there was a remand case. Within the next 2 minutes, the governor thought it to be a fake call. But then he thought that he was thinking too much. His imagination was getting out of control. For the first 15 minutes, Stephens had looked into the cell through the peephole after a gap of every 1 minute, and then after a gap of 2 minutes. At 10:45 a.m., everything seemed normal when he looked through the hole. There was no difference and it remained the same as always. Evans was always chewing his pen and looking at the front. McCleary always seated on his chair a bit tilted on one side. So chairல ஒரு பக்கமா சாஞ்சி உட்கார்ந்திருந்தாரு with his face partly turned. முகம் ஸ்லைட்டாக டேர்ன் பண்ணி வச்சிருந்தார். Stephens had noticed him earlier that his hair was cut very short near the scalp. Scalpna uchandala. He was reading the church times through his spectacles and his first finger was under his collar. The fingers of the left hand were nicely manicured, that means well cared. He was softly touching his black beard. 10:51 a.m. Stephens opened the peephole and was surprised to see Evans sitting with a blanket on his shoulders. ஸோ இந்த டைம் ஸ்டீஃபன்ஸ் ஈவான்ஸ் பார்க்கும்போது ஈவான்ஸ் ஷோல்டரில் பிளாங்கெட் இருந்தது. ஸோ ஸ்டீஃபன்ஸ் வாஸ் சர்ப்ரைஸ்ட் why he was having this blanket. It seemed strange to him and he even thought of reporting Jackson for this new change he had noticed. ஸோ இது அவருக்கு ஸ்ட்ரேஞ்சாக இருந்தது, ஈவான்ஸ் பிளாங்கெட்டை போத்தி இருந்தது. ஸோ ஜாக்சன் கிட்ட ரிப்போர்ட் பண்ணணும்னு நினச்சார் யார், ஸ்டீஃபன்ஸ். ஹி அகெயின் லுக்ட் அட் ஹிம் அண்ட் நோட்டிஸ்ட் தட் ஈவான்ஸ் புல்டு த டர்ட்டி பிளாங்கெட் க்ளோஸ் டு ஹிம்செல்ஃப். ஸோ திரும்ப அவர் பார்க்கும்போது ஈவான்ஸ் அந்த டர்ட்டி பிளாங்கெட்டை ரொம்ப க்ளோஸாக போத்திருந்தார். நவ் ஸ்டீஃபன்ஸ் வாஸ் கெட்டிங் டவுட்ஃபுல் அபவுட் ஈவான்ஸ். ஸோ இந்த டைம் ஸ்டீஃபன்ஸ்க்கு டவுட் வந்துருச்சு. He even thought that he could harm McCleary by suffocating him with his blanket. ஸோ இந்த பிளாங்கெட் யூஸ் பண்ணி மெக்லேரியை ஹார்ம் பண்ணிடுவாரோ, அவர் முகத்தில் மூச்சு விட முடியாமல் பண்ணி அவரை தாக்கிடுவாரோ அப்படிங்கிற தாட் ஸ்டீஃபன்ஸ்க்கு வந்தது. But then he told himself that he should not behave so foolish as there was no sun on this side of prison, not even in summers. So it was normal that the cell got chilly. ஸோ தென் ஸ்டீஃபன்ஸ் என்ன நினச்சாருன்னா, ப்ரிசனுக்குள்ள சன்லைட்டே இல்லை. ஸோ நார்மலி த செல் கெட்ஸ் சில்னஸ். ஸோ மேபி அதனால் அவர் பிளாங்கெட் யூஸ் பண்ணியிருக்கலான்னு ஸ்டீஃபன் தாட். ஸோ ஹீ டிசைடட் டு ரிட்டர்ன் பேக் டு ஹிஸ் எவ்ரி மினிட் செக் த்ரூ த பீப் ஹோல். ஸோ அதுக்கப்புறம் அவரோட ஆஸ் யூஷுவல் எவ்ரி மினிட் செக்கை அவர் கண்டினியூ பண்ணார். 11:20 a.m. Once again the governor's phone rang. Meanwhile, McCleary told Evans that only 5 minutes were left for the exam to be completed. Governor was still doubtful about something, but he went to receive the call. At 11:22, Jackson shouted to Stephens as the governor wanted to talk to him. He ran up and listened carefully to each and everything ordered to him. It was his duty to accompany McCleary to the main gate of the prison. So Stephens had to be fully assured about Evans' cell being properly locked when McCleary left it. At 11:25 a.m., the governor heard the final talk between Evans and McCleary. Then McCleary asked Evans to stop writing. He also told him to arrange his sheets in order. Then the sound of the movement of chairs was heard. Then Evans said thank you to McCleary. He queried who McCleary asked Evans how his exam was. And Evans replied that it was not too bad. Then he called Mr. Stephens. The governor heard the final shutting down of the door. The exam was over. Stephen asked McCleary, did Evans' exam went well? McCleary said that he didn't think so. His Scottish accent seemed a bit different from the earlier one. Moreover, his overcoat was now reaching close to his knees, leading to the imagination that he had suddenly turned slim. There was something different in Evans' look. Okay, his Scottish accent seemed a bit different. Then his overcoat now it was reaching close to his knees. Then suddenly he looked suddenly turned slim. Then Stephens was happy as the governor chose him over Jackson to accompany McCleary of the premises. Everything was done fine that day, he thought. He stopped him from going to the canteen for an overdue cup of coffee. That means he took his coffee very late. He wanted to see Evans for once last time. It seemed to him like a TV program in which the lady was never sure of locking the door before going to bed, and she would get up 12 or 15 and even 20 times to check the bolts. Stephens again entered into the D wing and he once again opened the peephole of Evans' cell. When he looked inside through it, he was shocked to see the situation inside. For a few seconds, he thought it was Stephens on his chair, but it was not so. The churchman was lying back. His hair was soaked in blood. The blood was flowing down horribly from his beard to his collar and then on his black overcoat. Stephens shouted for Jackson so loudly that even McCleary, whose ear was filled with blood, was able to hear it. The churchman was weakly searching for the hand key to stop the blood flowing from his head. The hand key got soaked in the blood. He cried out of pain. He tried to speak, but he couldn't do so. By the time Jackson came and ordered Stephens to call the police and ambulance, the handkey got fully soaked in blood. McCleary raised himself and told them that they should not worry about him as he was fine. He asked for the governor as he knew where Evans had gone. The blood was splashing down from his head while he was trying hard to pick up the German question paper. All of a sudden, there was a massive sound of sirens. Officers were giving away orders, doors were being opened and shut, and the phones were ringing. Stephens and Jackson supported McCleary to the governor's office. His face was coated with dry blood when he was greeted by the governor at the prison yard. The governor looked puzzled. The governor wanted to take McCleary to the hospital, but he insisted on calling the police. He then opened up the German question paper and moved it towards the governor. He wanted to show something important to him. The governor noticed that a photocopied sheet was cleverly laid on the blank space of the question paper. The governor tried to recall what he had learnt in his German classes. He was willing to translate the text. Now the governor was going to translate the text. On the blank space of the question paper, a photocopied sheet was laid. So that the governor was going to read. Now the governor tried to translate it. It was written that everything should go by the plan. The important thing was that he had to do just 3 minutes before the end of the exam. He was told to hit McCleary's head and was warned for not overdoing his Scottish accent. Meanwhile, the sound of a fast-moving siren reached its highest point and a white police car entered into the yard. Detective Superintendent Carter waved out from his car and saluted the governor. He queried about what had happened and he looked worried. Now McCleary interrupted in between and said that Evans had gone to Elsfield. He was breathing heavily when he told so. Carter looked confused and tried to seek clarity from the governor. The governor told him to take him as only he knew where Evans had gone. Carter helped McCleary to sit inside, and within a few seconds, the car sprayed the little stones behind it. This means the car left the place at a great speed. The governor recalled that McCleary had said Elsfield Way. He started reading the text again and discovered that it was a route towards the examination board. He then concluded that somebody from the examination board had helped him. Then he turned towards Jackson and Stephens and scolded them in a very insulting manner to help Evans walk out of the prison. Now Stephens stammered, that means mumbled, that it was he who did it because the governor had ordered him to do so. Governor was surprised to hear this, and he said that he never did this. Stephens told him the time when he called him. The governor once again scolded them for not understanding that it was a fake call. He then realized that it was no use, as it was he who had called the examination board with a failed attempt. The governor was growing hopeless. He scolded senior prison officer Jackson for being so confident about his abilities. Then he had spent 2 hours checking Evans' cell and had declared it to be all okay. But the reality was that Evans was able to hide a false beard, spectacles, and other clerical stuff inside his cell. He also had a weapon which he had used to hit McCleary in such a terrible way. Then the prison van came behind, but the governor did not move. He again looked down at the German text and tried to decode it. The word written it meant new grave. Then he tried hard to find the place and then finally decoded it to be Newbury. He had got the place where Evans had escaped to. He then ordered the driver to take Evans and Stephens to St. Aldate's police station. He also instructed them to ask for Chief Inspector Bell on reaching at the police station. Governor jumped the stairs to his office and called up Bell. He explained the entire situation to him. Bell said that he would catch him, but with some luck. The governor sat on his chair and started thinking while he lit up his cigarette. He thought it was a nice plan, but felt that Evans was careless to leave the question paper behind. He then admitted that all of them made mistakes like Evans, and then I reassured him that his mistake of Evans would again bring back to the prison. Once again, the phone rang very harsh on his desk. Carter informed him that McCleary had spotted him in a car at Elsfield Way. They chased him as they had noted down his number, but soon lost him at Headington roundabout. Governor informed him that Evans was on the way to Newbury. He then explained as why he thought he was going towards Newbury and then left it all on the police, as according to him his job was done. He had already become a laughing stock for others for being over a trustful person. He also then inquired about McCleary being taken to the hospital. Carter said that he has been taken to Ratcliffe Hospital. He also told him that McCleary had grown very weak when they took him to the examination office. So they rang up for the ambulance from there. Governor called in the hospital and inquired about the injured parson. They replied that they had sent the ambulance to bring the patient, but they found no one there. McCleary was not there. When the governor heard about the disappearance of the parson, that means McCleary, churchman, he did not hear anything more from the other side. He had understood. Governor had understood the whole truth and he was feeling a bit uneasy in his neck. After a gap of 15 minutes, they found the real Reverend McCleary, who was tied up by two men in his study at Broad Street since 8:15 a.m. So, real McCleary அவரை கட்டி போட்டு வச்சுருந்தாங்க. The search in Newbury resulted into nothing. So nobody was there in the place Newbury. It was clear that the man who was taken to the prison door by Stephens was not Evans. So Stephens கூட்டிட்டு போன the prison doorக்கு கூட்டிட்டு போன பர்சனும் உண்மையான Evans கிடையாது. Then where was he? But Evans was the one who stayed inside the cell and pretended to be McCleary, who was in a pool of blood. இங்கே செல்குள்ளே அடிப்பட்ட மாதிரி படுத்திருக்கான் இல்லையா, that was McCleary. Okay, so now the story is moved up to Evans. After having delicious fish and chips and a small walk near Chipping Norton, he decided to go back to his hotel room to sleep early. So இங்கே Evans தப்பிச்சு வந்துட்டான். So where was he? Now he was having his delicious fish and chips and he had a small walk near Chipping Norton. Then he decided to go back to his hotel room to sleep early. He was wearing a new hat that had smartly hidden his short hair. Then he kept wearing it on his head even when he reached the reception of Gold Lion Hotel. So Evans tangir in the hotel, Gold Lion Hotel. He then recalled his previous night when Jackson took away his scissors and he had to cut his hair with a razor blade. That was quite a bad luck. But then he thought about his good luck when Jackson asked him to remove his hat and how he managed to stop him from doing so. He then concluded that old Jackson was not that bad. One of the worst things that seemed funny to Evans was using a false beard. He was sensitive to the sticking materials, but he had to use it for sticking up the beard. It was now irritating him as it had reddened his chin and he was feeling pain there. When he reached the reception counter, he found that it was not the same girl which was there at the time of his booking. So he returned from his small walk. Now he reached the hotel where he stayed and he found that the girl receptionist, same receptionist was not there. But he thought that this change was good. He then told her that he was not concerned about morning breakfast and he ordered a newspaper named Daily Express and asked to wake him up 6:45 a.m. as tomorrow was another busy day for him. Then he was climbing up the broad stairs while whistling. Then Evans was once again lost in his thoughts. He liked being dressed up like a minister, the dog collar and other things. Then he thought it to be a good idea that McCleary was wearing two collars, two friends. Okay, but the top collar was slipping off again and again. But there was a moment of great fear when McCleary tried to stop his collar from falling down with his finger in front of Stephen's. Then they had somehow solved the problem by always keeping a pen in his mouth whenever Stephen peeked inside. There was a little annoying moment while he was trying to wear a black front and the stud at the back collar. That was difficult for him. Otherwise, things went well. And he got everything in the car which they had promised him: soap, water, and a map. The Ordnance Survey map of Oxfordshire. And he thought that he had got some good and clever friends. Then Evans unlocked his room, and when he turned back after shutting the door, he was shocked to see someone in his room. He stood there lifeless. அவர் ரூமுக்கு போயிட்டு லாக் பண்ணிவிட்டு திரும்பி பார்க்கும்போது Evans was shocked. He stood there lifeless. He had a quick look at the fierce looking man he had never expected in his room. It was the governor. ஸோ ஜாலியாக வாக் போயிட்டு ரூமுக்கு போய் உள்ள டோர் லாக் பண்ணிட்டு திரும்பி பார்த்தா யார் இருக்காங்க? கவர்னர். Evans looked around hopelessly. Governor told him that there was no use of it, as he had his men all around. தப்பிச்சு போக வழியே இல்லை. ஸோ ஃபுல்லாக here the police surrounded. He was also shocked at the thought of the girl at the reception who was extra sweet to him. Then Evans looked disturbed. He held his head in his hands, and it was silence for a few minutes. Evans then said that it was correction slip, he guessed. The governor told him that there were some people who knew German. Evans then relaxed over some time and explained the mistake he did. The mistake was that they were not able to decide about the hotel, which they could have worked in some other way. He asserted that it was necessary for them to know the exact at which the paper started, so that they could make a call exactly before the end of the exam in order to get a clear way for McClary. ஸோ கவர்னருக்கு எப்படி விஷயம் தெரிஞ்சது? தட் blank space of the question பேப்பரில் ஃபோட்டோ காப்பீட் ஷீட். ஸோ அதில் இருந்த விஷயம் மூலயமா தான் கவர்னருக்கு இவான்ஸோட பிளான் தெரிய வந்தது. The governor admitted that he had provided the information to him foolishly. Then Evans said that the correction slip gave him both the hotel name and the time of exam. It was like killing two birds with one stone. ஒரு கல்லில் ரெண்டு மாங்கான்னு சொல்லிங்களா, அந்த மாதிரி he was caught. Governor agreed to it. Evans then queried how did he come to know that he was staying in the Golden Lion Hotel, as there were hundreds of them. ஏன்னா ஹோட்டலில் நிறைய பேர் இருப்பாங்க. எப்படி இவான்ஸ் அங்கே தான் இருக்கான்னு எப்படி கண்டுபிடிச்சாங்கன்னு he asked governor. Governor said that the index number 313 and center number 271 were the 6-figure reference of the survey map for Oxfordshire, which brought us in the middle of the Chipping Norton. So the index number, center number யூஸ் பண்ணி அது வந்து 6-figure ரெஃபரன்ஸ் சர்வே மேப்பில். ஸோ யூஸிங் தட் governor found where he stayed accurately. Evans said that he was right, but he thought that they would go to Newbury. Governor said that they went. Then he asked Evans whether he was able to understand the question paper, as the governor was not able to understand it. Evans said no, he was not. Then the governor asked him where he got blood from to pour on his head, because மெக்லரி மாதிரி அடிபட்டு அந்த செல்லில் இவான்ஸ் தான் இருந்தான் இல்லையா. ஸோ அந்த பிளட் உனக்கு எங்கேருந்து வந்தது, எங்கேருந்து கிடச்சிது அப்படின்னு கவர்னர் கேட்குறாரு. And Evans felt happy to hear this and said that it was a clever thing to bring blood into the cell. ஸோ Evans he felt happy, ரொம்ப சந்தோஷம், இது அவரால் கண்டுபிடிக்க முடியலையே அப்படின்ட்டு. He then revealed that when invigilator was being searched before exam, he then stopped telling him anything so that he could use it in future too. ஸோ அந்த சீக்ரெட் ரிவீல் பண்ணும்போது ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சுட்டு ஈவன்ஸ் ஹீ ஸ்டாப்ட் பிகாஸ் ஹீ வாண்டட் டு யூஸ் இட் இன் ஃபியூச்சர். ஸோ ஹீ ஸ்டாப்ட் டெல்லிங் தட் சீக்ரெட். நவ் த கவர்னர் கெஸ்ட் இட் டு பி ரப்பர் ரிங் ஃபார் பைல்ஸ். ஸோ கவர்னர் கரெக்டாக கெஸ் பண்ணிட்டார். ஈவான் ஸ்மைல்டு வீக்லி அண்ட் செட் இட் வாஸ் அ கிளவர் திங். Then governor pointed out it to be a tough thing which Evans felt it not to be so tough. Then Evans said that the main problem was to prevent it from hardening. ஸோ இவான்ஸ்க்கு எது பெரிய ப்ராப்ளம்னா பிளட் வந்து கிளாட் ஆகாமல் பார்த்துக்கிறது தான். He told him that they got pig blood easily from a meat shop in Kidlington and said that one has to mix his own blood to stop it from hardening. ஸோ அவனுக்கு எங்கேருந்து பிளட்டு கிடச்சிதுன்னா மீட் ஷாப்பில், கிட்லிங்டனில் இருக்க மீட் ஷாப்பில் பிக் பிளட் he got. Then Evans took a break and said that he mixed 3.8% of trisodium citrate to prevent it from clotting. அந்த பிளட்டு கிளாட் ஆகாமல் இருக்கிறதுக்கு என்ன அதில் கலந்தாங்க, 3.8% of trisodium citrate. Then governor shook his head and though he did not want to praise him, so he said that they learn new things every day. He then took Evans with him and walked down the stairs. Governor asked him how he planned this as he had no visitors or letters for him. ஸோ கவர்னர் வந்து கேட்குறாரு, உனக்கு விசிட்டர்ஸ் வரதில்லை, லெட்டர்ஸ் வரதில்லை, தென் ஹவு யூ பிளான்ட்? Evans replied that he had many friends, even his German teacher was his friend. So governor surprisingly said that the teacher was from technical college. So when they were talking, the receptionist came and she told that the van was ready. Then Evans was then handcuffed by the prison officer and they both climbed the van. The governor said bye in a way as he was bidding him farewell. Then Evans asked him whether he knew any other language. ஸோ வேனில் ஏறினதுக்கப்புறம் இவான்ஸ் கவர்னர்கிட்ட கேட்குறான், உங்களுக்கு ஏதாவது வேறு லாங்குவேஜ் தெரியுமான்னு. த கவர்னர் ஆஸ்ட் ஹிம் த ரீசன் பிஹைண்ட் திஸ். ஸோ அது அந்த என்ன லாங்குவேஜ் தெரியும், வேறு ஏதாவது லாங்குவேஜ் தெரியுமான்னு கேட்குறதுக்கு பின்னாடி ஏதாவது ரீசன் இருக்கான்னு கவர்னர் கேட்குறாரு. ஓகே. Evans sat back on his seat comfortably and happily replied that he asked so because he came to know that there would be O-level Italian classes coming up next September. The governor assured him that he would not be with them by September. Soon the van turned right from the Chipping Norton to the Oxford Road. Now the silent prison officer removed his handcuffs and asked the driver to drive fast. The driver asked about where to go in his Scot accent. So in driver oda Scot accent la enga pononu kekrar. Evans suggested them to go to Newbury. At last Evans was able to escape once again with the help of his friends who were now pretending to be the prison officer and the driver. So finally Evans got another chance. Now he was able to escape because prison officer-ஆவும் டிரைவராகவும் ஆக்ட் பண்ணி இவனை இப்போ தப்பிக்க வச்சது யார், அவனோட ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ். ஸோ அட் லாஸ்ட் Evans was able to escape once again. The theme of the story, Evans tries an O-level, is a clever escape planned by a convict on the pretense of taking a language exam in prison. The convict, even after being caught, still has a last laugh and makes his escape. That's the end of the lesson. Thank you.